of May 2025. The following members are present: Councillors Alec Allison, Ralph Barker, Arch Buchanan, Ross Clark, Jerry Convery, Margaret Cowie, Maureen Devlin, Colin Dewar, Mary Donnelly. I have apologies from Councillor Joe Fagan. Following members are present: Councillors Alistair Fulton, Shalene Handybode, Graham Horn, Cal Johnson Dempsey, Ross Lambie. Councillor Martin Lennon is not present. Following members are present: Councillors Leslie MacDonald, David McLaughlin, Richard Nelson, Norman Ray. Councillor John Ross is not present. We have apologies from Councillor Graham Scott, and the following members are present: Councillor David Shearer, Helen Toner and David Watson. Thank you, and I'll pass you to the Chair for today's business.
Thank you, Stuart. Just before we start the meeting, on your papers, it does say at the bottom that there is an awareness session on understanding the planned decision-making process at 12 noon, just to make you aware that, and it was by email, that has been postponed until a further date. We will then move into today's items. Just before I do that, can I just remind the committee members, as per the clerk's email issued last week, that item 8 for the erection of a residential development comprising of 9 flatted dwellings with access, parking and associated works at vacant land at Cornish Close, Kirk Street, Straven, has been withdrawn at the request of the applicant's agent. So if you can please disregard agenda item number 8. Agenda item number 1 then is any declarations of interest. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. Item 5, I wasn't at the meeting on the 1st of April, and in line with 1.2 of that report, I won't participate in the decision taken on this agenda item today.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. I will just ask you to leave the room when we are discussing agenda item number 5. Any further declarations of interest? We will then move into agenda item number 2 then, as the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 1st of April 2025. These are submitted for approval as a correct record from pages 5 to 10. I will move as correct.
I'll second it, Chair.
All agreed? Thank you. Agenda item number 3 then is planning appeals decisions from October 2024 to March 2025. These are on pages 11 to 16 and these are for noting. I'll ask Fraser just to talk through them. Councillor McLaughlin.
Fraser, come in, but since you've asked, 4.7, 4.8 and 4.9, these were items that were refused under delegated powers, but I see the reporter dealt with them rather than the PLRB. Is there a reason for that? Because I thought normally if it was a delegated refusal, the PLRB would hear it. Otherwise, if it was refused here, it would go to the reporters. Can get a wee bit of explanation for that, please?
Fraser.
Yeah, that's me on. Yeah, no, the report is for noting in general, and it's just that these are the updates on appeals that have been made by the Department of Planning and Environmental Appeals. These ones here, they relate to, they were certificates of lawfulness. So a certificate of lawfulness which is claiming that there has been an existing use, they are refused under delegated powers, but legislation is such that the appeal then needs to go to DPA. So what we thought, just for completeness, even as decisions have been made by the DPA, we will bring these back to this committee just so that you can kind of see them. But they are not planning applications, they're certificate of lawful use that have been claimed. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you. Okay, we'll then go on to agenda item number 4 then, please, is the placemaking in South Lanarkshire. These on pages 17 to 28. Fraser.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, no, and this report is also presented for noting, and it relates to non-statutory guidance that we will place on the Council website as a way of promoting principles of good placemaking for development in South Lanarkshire. The document doesn't create or replace existing policies which will be reviewed formally through the development plan process, but it's a positive and proactive approach that will hopefully steer developers across South Lanarkshire to deliver and to strive to create schemes that improve the overall quality of place and promote quality design and layouts in South Lanarkshire. As such, I'm hoping that members will see this as a positive statement towards what we want to see in new build developments in South Lanarkshire, and hopefully the development industry will follow this up with quality submissions for the Planning Authority to consider. So thanks, Chair.
Thank you. That was an item for noting. We will then move on to agenda item number 5. Is application P. Sorry, we'll ask Councillor Clark just to leave the room. So agenda item number 5 then is application P240533 for change of use of open space to accommodate expansion of a petrol filling station, including 2 electric vehicle charging bays, 2 jet wash bays, laundry unit, boundary fencing and extension to the retail unit at Ernock Service Station 105 Wellhall Road in Hamilton. These on pages 29 to 36. Fraser?
Yes, as you say, this application seeks consent to extend an existing service station, providing a range of additional facilities including jet wash bays, laundry unit and a 29 square metre extension to the retail unit. 17 letters of objection have been received and the issues raised are summarised in section 7 of the report and assessed against the relevant planning policies and material considerations in section 10. This application was deferred from the last meeting of the Planning Committee to allow members who felt that they needed an opportunity to do so to visit the site before making a decision on the planning application as presented. The scale and range of facilities which are proposed for this unit are appropriate to the site and relate to the existing business that is being operated and the context of the surrounding area. No objections have been submitted by the Roads Authority, and while it is noted that roadworks are proposed to take place in this area in the future, these will seek to deliver works that are required to address the pressure on the surrounding road network, primarily as a result of the development of the community growth area. They are not impacted by this development, and to this end, they should not be taken into consideration in the decision-making process today, and I would suggest that if members have any questions on the roadworks proposed, that they should contact the head of roads directly. In terms of the impact of the proposal on the amenity of the area, conditions have been imposed to allow control over factors such as noise, hours of operation or the drainage of water from the site, and once again, this is to the satisfaction of the relevant statutory bodies. In conclusion, the design, layout and general impact of the development does not raise significant amenity or infrastructure issues, and as the use complies with the relevant national and local development planning policies, it is recommended that application P240533 should be approved subject to the conditions set out on page 34 of today's papers.
Thank you, Fraser. I'll open up for any questions or comments. Councillor Shearer, please.
Not a comment on this application at the moment, Chair. I have 2 members of my group who are having technical difficulties and are experiencing a blank screen through Conferro. Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Johnson Dempsey. Okay, turn them off and turn them back on again.
Well, we're just trying to sort that technical difficulty out. Is there any further questions or comments in the room? Councillor Don.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move refusal. Having been to the site visit, I am even more convinced that the traffic issues have not been resolved and this application would contribute to more traffic congestion.
And do you have a seconder, Councillor Donnelly? Councillor Shearer. We'll take further questions or comments. Councillor McLaughlin first, please.
Thanks, Chair. Question for the Roads Department, I suppose, based on Councillor Donnelly's proposal to refuse the extra traffic that's generated. It's a busy filling station at the moment, and I don't see any problems with it. I pass it regularly. But I wonder how much extra traffic would be generated with the new facilities built into it. And what, you know, I mean, I know it's a crystal ball sort of question, but in comparison to the people who use it for filling station purposes and the general convenience store, the difference of the additional traffic, I would like to see, just from your point of view, how much of a difference that would make and how much of an extra impact it would have, if any.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, we see the proposals as excuse me, it's been an extra facility for the customers rather than it being generating additional customers. There will potentially be a small increase in the number of people that will be arriving at the site because of the jet wash that's there, but it is a manual wash, and that's very different to the sort of ones where you stay in your car and someone else washes your car, which would give us a real concern. The jet wash is just our experience of observing different petrol filling stations. They don't tend to generate queues or sort of a massive increase in demand for the use. And obviously with the electric vehicle charging points, that will be a change from people that would normally fill up their car with petrol to people that would be filling up their car with electricity. So we don't see it as being a significant increase at all.
Thank you. I'll give you one supplementary, Councillor McLaughlin.
So based on, Fraser, your response here about the car wash, yeah, it's the handheld jet wash type thing. That's kind of normal just about every local petrol station that I know in the area anyway. And, you know, have you done a comparison? I may be asking too much here, but if you could make a comparison as to how much traffic that would generate.
I think that's a kind of hard question to answer. I don't really want... I'm not going to ask Rose just to come in on that. I think that's just a wee bit too far a question, because I think Fraser's answered your question already on that. So I'll bring in Councillor Watson, please.
Thanks, Chair. It's not, again, not to do with the planning application, but to do with the point that Councillor Shearer mentioned, and I missed some of the chat down the bottom there. Are councillors back online for this? I mean, it's only a few weeks ago, if even that council decided that they wanted to continue with this sort of system where councillors were working remote, and we were assured that there was no issues going forward and all the rest of it. And I would like it recorded that there is still an issue and it should be taken up elsewhere, that you can't have it both ways. We're all in here doing our job and taking decisions, or if you're sitting at home or elsewhere and can't get online, you just need to lump it. This is a quasi-judicial committee, Chair, and decisions need to be taken. Thanks.
It's for myself to decide, Councillor Watson, if those members weren't in. I mean, they're shown on the screen as being in. They've said they're seeing a blank screen, but on our system, they are shown of being in the meeting. If they have missed the agenda items and missed the discussion, then they cannot take part in the vote, and I've made that decision. That's why we come into this room here. So I'm making that decision. If they've missed the item at the start, I'm sorry, you've missed it, and we will go to the vote without them taking part in the vote. I'll bring in Councillor Barker, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to remark it on the congestion issue, it's not so much the overall increase in traffic, which seems to be what Roads Department based their any objections, non-objections on. It's the car wash element, and where we have similar services, there tends to be a queue. So it's not the overall traffic that won't make much difference, but we get queues at car washes, and you just have to go down the road to see it. And I can't see any way in this. I mean, you know, this is planning, not a roads issue. We can see what's going to happen, and I can't see any conditions we could put on to make sure that queues don't go out onto the roundabouts, which are pretty difficult. I mean, we saw that at the meeting. It's quite a difficult roundabout anyway. So any idea of queues for the car wash, can't blame drivers. They'll come up, they'll show up, and they'll sit there outside, if there's a queue, onto the roundabout, making matters worse. So we've seen it before. I mean, I appreciate all the general issues, and that the applicant may appeal. But as I say, we've seen this happen before, where we've quite rightly issued planning consent against the wishes of some of these members, and afterwards, we find that there is a problem, and it usually is a road safety problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. We will note your concerns. I think the difference between the jet wash and the car wash that you're speaking about is, as we've already alluded to, is people sit in their cars and people wash them. This is completely different. And I think what you're trying to bring up there is more of the roads issue. So we take the merit of the planning as it's submitted here. So therefore, I'm going to move to the vote. We have a proposer, by Councillor Donnelly, seconded by Councillor Shearer. I will move the motion then that we grant subject to conditions.
I'll second it, Chair.
And we will now move to the vote. Councillor,
Thank you, Chair. Before I progress to the vote, can I just check, Councillor Buchanan, are you in the meeting just now? And if so, have you been in the meeting and been able to hear the full item? Do you know what's shown? Okay, in that case, I believe we have 18 members who are able to participate in this vote. Councillor Cal Johnson-Dempsey has already advised that he is in the meeting but didn't catch the start of the item, so won't participate in the vote. So just to recap, the motion proposed by Councillor Nelson and seconded by Councillor Convery is that the application be granted subject to the conditions specified in the report. The amendment proposed by Councillor Donnelly and seconded by Councillor Shearer is to refuse the application on the grounds that the proposal would lead to further traffic congestion. The vote is now live, and I would ask that members please indicate your voting preference. Thank you.
Sorry.
You entered the meeting? I'll show you these glasses.
Okay, could I please ask that all members cast your vote?
Yeah. No, don't keep pressing, Ralph.
Okay, all members who are entitled to vote on this item have now cast their vote, and I will now close the vote. The 10 members have voted in favour of the motion and 8 members in favour of the amendment. I therefore declare the motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. We'll then move on to agenda item number 6 then, please. Is application P241300 for the erection of 2 houses, formation of 2 new vehicle accesses and associated works at land at Stoneside of Drips Farm, Cartside Highway, Thornton Hall, and these on pages 37 to 46. Fraser? Sorry, I forgot about Councillor Clark. So we haven't started agenda item number 6, but it's pages 37 to 46, and it's application P241300. Fraser?
Okay. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, this application relates to a site within the Greenbelt and seeks consent for 2 4-bedroom dwellings, which the applicant has suggested be for agricultural workers. However, this has not been supported with information to confirm that this accommodation is essential or that there is a lack of local availability. So as such, as set out in section 10 of the report to members, this current proposal for 2 dwellings for a site in the Greenbelt does not comply with a range of national and local development planning policies, and no evidence or information has been provided that would justify a departure from local and national development plan policies. So therefore, for the reasons for refusal set out in section 11 of the report, it is recommended that application P241330 should be refused.
Thank you, Fraser. I'll open up for any questions or comments, please. If there are no questions or comments, the recommendation is to refuse. I will recommend that we refuse.
I'll second it, Chair.
All agreed. Thank you. Agenda item number 7 is application P241481 for the erection of 2 single-storey houses, formation of driveways and associated works at land 56 metres north east of Granger Cottages, Granger Road, Lesmahago, and these on pages 47 to 54. Fraser?
Chair, this application relates to a site within the rural area and also seeks consent for 2 4-bedroom dwellings, and once again has not been supported with information to confirm that the accommodation is essential or required to meet the need of an appropriate rural business. Section 10 of the report to members expands on the policy considerations further and provides a thorough explanation of the changes in policy that have taken place at the national and local level since a previous decision on this site was made in 2016. It is also noted that the Roads Authority have objected to this proposal, as it appears that visibility displays could not be achieved, and therefore, for the reasons for refusal set out in section 11, it is recommended that application P241481 should be refused.
Thank you. I'll open up for any questions or comments, please. If there are no questions or comments, the recommendation is to refuse. I will move refusal.
I'll second it, Chair.
All agreed. Agenda item number 8 has been withdrawn. We will then move to agenda item number 9 as application P250061 for development of a 150 megawatt battery energy storage system with associated infrastructure, inclusive of the reinstatement of access points at land at Downey Bray Road, Rutherglen, and these on pages 63 to 72. Fraser?
Chair, this report relates to an application that has been submitted to the Scottish Government's Energy Consent Unit, and as such, in this instance, the Council is a consultee and not the decision-making authority. The proposal itself relates to a vacant site within the Clyde Gateway Strategic Economic and Investment Location and seeks consent for the construction of a battery energy storage facility involving the siting of 38 battery banks and ancillary infrastructure with a capacity of some 150 megawatts. With regards to the assessment of the relevant development planning policies, Policies 1 and 2 of the National Planning Framework seek to encourage uses that address the impacts of climate change, and at the same time Policy 18 of the South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan provides our local policy context, and again it is noted that this is favourable for renewable energy proposals. However, national and local planning policies are not a hierarchy, but instead the assessment of planning applications needs to be made on the development plan as a whole. And in this context, the determining factor in this application relates to the fact that it seeks to introduce a use within a nationally important industrial and commercial area that does not create or secure Class 4, 5 or 6 employment opportunities. It does not involve the creation of strategic office development, nor does it provide essential ancillary infrastructure for this strategic economic location. As such, it is considered that the proposals are unacceptable for a number of development planning considerations, and these are set out in the details across section 10 of the report presented to members. In summary, it is recognised that battery storage systems are an emerging technology and a land use that will have an ongoing role in the drive to ensure that there is a reliable and steady supply of electricity onto the national grid. However, it is noted that there is a land use which will need to be catered for in future iterations of the development plan and for which additional national guidance would be welcomed. However, in this instance, given that the site is surrounded by a number of existing employers and is within one of the prime industrial and commercial employment locations in South Lanarkshire, the land use designation should be protected, and that for the reasons set out on page 70 of the report to members, it is recommended that South Lanarkshire Council object to the proposed battery energy storage system at Downeybury Road in Rutherglen.
Thank you, Fraser. I'll open up for any questions or comments. Councillor Alec Allison, please.
Yeah, not a comment or anything on this. The reasons for refusal, or not refusal here, for recommending refusal, Fraser, you've made quite clear, but it's all objections to. You've also indicated that we would welcome Scottish Government guidelines on what would be suitable. Is there any way you can give us some more clarity on what would be suitable? I don't mean here just now, if that could be forwarded, perhaps at a future time, rather than simply finding problems, starting with what is possible.
Fraser?
Yeah, it's something we're working on just now, Councillor, in terms of a policy steer for members in terms of these applications. We're also working with other authorities in the Glasgow and Clyde Valley area, as well as with other local authorities across Scotland. We are pressing the Scottish Government for additional guidance on this, and also looking for a general steer from the Energy Consents Unit. Not great at coming back to us with information just now, but we will continue to push for that. And certainly that's something that we then want to bring as a report that we'll bring to members to give you a better policy context for dealing with these proposals.
Thank you. Councillor McLaughlin, please.
Thanks, Chair. Fraser, it's really a history lesson here I'm looking at. I do believe there was an application similar to this in this sort of location that we refused a while back. Am I correct in saying that? I see you nodding your head. Is there was it across the river, or was it? If you don't mind, please. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it was a smaller scale site. There was actually Seath Road, so it was just across the river and the other side of the railway. So there was a proposal that was refused in there. That wasn't appealed.
It wasn't appealed.
So that wasn't appealed. So this one, because it's above 50 megawatts, then we're a consultee on this one. Mm-hmm. So that's, so we're not the planning authority decision maker, but we're a consultee. But it's the same issues that arise with this one. It's a strategic economic and industrial location. The priority around this is to get employment generating uses. And that isn't the case in terms of battery energy storage facilities.
And you answered my question, because my next question was going to be if that was refused and it was appealed, but it wasn't. So that's pretty safe then. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? I personally think that this is the right decision for this council to take, and I do hope that the Scottish Government listen to our planners and our local development plan that we are working on. So the recommendation is that the Scottish Government Energy Consent Unit is informed that for the reasons stated, South Lanarkshire Council object to the granting of consent under section 36 of the Electricity Act 1989, and I will move that recommendation.
I'll second it, Chair.
All agreed? Thank you. We'll then move on to agenda item number 10. It's application P250067 for the erection of 5 detached single-storey dwellings with garages, formation of access road and associated landscaping at land 75 metres north of Hardacres, Belfield Road in Lanark, pages 73 to 84 in your pack. Fraser.
Chair, this application seeks consent for 5 detached dwellings on a site that is located within the settlement boundary of Lanark, with the rear gardens of the properties on Hardacres forming the southern boundary and an allocated housing site to the north. No objections have been submitted from statutory consultees, but 31 letters of objection have been submitted, and these are summarised in section 7 of the report presented to members today, as well as being available to view on the relevant web pages of the planning portal. As stated, the principle of development on this site is accepted, given its designation in the adopted local development plan. And when assessing the proposal against the public representations that have been submitted, it is noted that the proposed layout, the density of the development and the technical details presented are acceptable and do not bring the proposal into conflict with any of the policies in the local development plan or present details that would lead to a recommendation other than approval. Therefore, subject to the conditions set out in section 11 of the report to members, it is recommended that application P250067 should be approved.
Thank you, Fraser. Any questions or comments, please? There are no questions or comments. The recommendation then is to grant subject to the conditions. I will move that we grant subject to the conditions.
I'll second it, Chair.
All agreed? Thank you. Agenda item number 11 is application P250216 for the change of use of office Class 4 to a house Class 9, incorporating internal alterations for the erection of single-storey rear extension and external access alterations at 172 Maxwellton Avenue, East Kilbride, and these are on pages 85 to 91. Fraser?
Thanks, Chair. This application seeks to return an existing office space into a residential unit, together with the provision of a rear extension and internal alterations. The site is within a conservation area, and the designs submitted are acceptable and in keeping with what is generally a residential area. Initial proposals had included a parking arrangement to the front of the building that was unacceptable, but this has been amended and has addressed the main factors that were referred to in the objections that have been submitted. Having made these changes, it is considered that the proposed development is acceptable and that, subject to the conditions set out in section 11 of the report, that the application P250216 should be approved.
Thank you, Fraser. Any questions or comments? If there are no questions or comments, the recommendation is to grant subject to conditions. I will move the recommendation.
I'll second it, Chair.
All agreed? Agenda item number 12. We don't have any items of urgent business today. I will now ask the clerk to stop the recording and wish you all a good day. Thank you.